Jasmine Carter held the lottery ticket with trembling hands, $50 million. After years of struggling, she could finally give her husband the life he deserved. She raced home to surprise him, but when she reached his office door, she heard voices inside that made her blood run cold. What happened next would change everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and the true meaning of wealth. The fluorescent lights of County General Hospital flickered as Jasmine shuffled through the hallway at 2 in the morning, her feet aching in shoes she'd worn for 12 hours straight. At 38, she felt twice that age. The night shift nursing job paid the bills, barely, but it was the weekend catering gigs and the late-night Uber driving that kept the collection agencies from calling. Well, kept them from calling as often anyway. She glanced at her phone. 3 hours until her shift ended, then she'd have exactly 90 minutes to go home, shower, change, and start prep work for a wedding reception. She was catering that afternoon. Sleep wasn't even a consideration anymore. It was a luxury she'd given up somewhere around the time Daniel's mother had gotten sick, around the time the medical bills had started piling up like snow in a blizzard, around the time Daniel's architecture career had stalled and their dreams had been put on hold indefinitely. Daniel, her husband of 12 years, the man who'd promised her the world when they were young and hopeful, before reality had worn them both down to the bone. He was talented, brilliantly talented, but the architecture world was cruel to those without connections, without family money, without the right last name. He'd been working at Morrison and Associates for 2 years now, designing beautiful buildings that other people took credit for, earning a salary that would have been insulting if they weren't so desperate. Things had gotten slightly better 6 months ago when Vanessa Whitmore had hired the firm. Vanessa was a real estate developer, one of those self-made millionaires who never let you forget she was self-made. She had money, power, and a smile that never quite reached her ice-blue eyes. She'd specifically requested Daniel for her projects, which should have been flattering. Instead, it felt like exploitation. She paid him barely above his normal rate while his designs were making her millions. Jasmine had met Vanessa exactly 3 times, and each encounter had left her feeling like something stuck to the bottom of a designer shoe. The way Vanessa looked at her, that slight curl of the lip, that assessment that found her lacking, made Jasmine's skin crawl. The comments were always wrapped in fake sweetness, like poison in honey. "Does your little wife still work those quaint jobs? How charming that she's so dedicated to serving others." Charming. The word was a slap dressed up as a compliment. But Jasmine endured it, just like she endured everything else, because that's what you did when you loved someone. You carried the weight together, and you didn't complain about how heavy it got. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of exhaustion that had become Jasmine's constant companion. She'd just finished her shift when she stopped at the gas station like she did every week, $2 for a Powerball ticket. It was her one indulgence, her tiny rebellion against the practical voice that said she should save every penny. She always played the same numbers, the date of their wedding anniversary and Daniel's mother's birthday. It was sentimental and foolish, and she didn't care. She tucked the ticket into her purse without much thought and drove home to catch whatever sleep she could before the wedding prep began. The drawing was that night, but Jasmine was too busy managing a bridezilla meltdown over cream cheese versus buttercream frosting to watch. She didn't check her phone, she didn't check the numbers. She just worked, like she always did, until her body was ready to collapse. Sunday morning, during her hospital break, she remembered the ticket. She pulled it out more from habit than hope and opened the lottery website on her phone. The winning numbers stared back at her. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, Powerball 9. She looked at her ticket, then back at the screen, then at her ticket again. Every single number matched. The world tilted sideways. The break room suddenly felt too small, too hot, the walls pressing in $50 million. The jackpot was $50 million, and she was holding the only winning ticket. Her hands shook so violently she nearly dropped her phone. She looked around the empty break room, paranoid that someone would burst in and somehow try to take it from her. She carefully folded the ticket and tucked it deep into her wallet, her heart hammering against her ribs. $50 million. They could pay off everything: the medical debt, the credit cards, the second mortgage they'd taken on the house. They could actually live. Daniel could open his own firm, design the buildings he'd always dreamed of. They could breathe. She had to tell him, right now. Daniel had to be the first to know. Jasmine did something she'd never done in 7 years of working at County General. She told her supervisor there was a family emergency and left mid-shift. She drove home in a daze, her mind spinning with possibilities. She imagined his face when she told him. She imagined the relief, the joy, the weight lifting from his shoulders. She imagined them laughing, maybe crying, holding each other, and finally believing that things were going to be okay. The spring afternoon was beautiful, the kind of day that felt full of promise. Jasmine pulled into their driveway, still clutching her purse against her chest like it contained the secrets of the universe, which, in a way, it did. That's when she noticed Vanessa's car, a silver Mercedes, gleaming in the sunlight, parked right in front of their house on a Sunday. Vanessa never came by on weekends. Vanessa barely acknowledged that they had a home, preferring to summon Daniel to her office like some kind of medieval lord calling for a servant. Jasmine's excitement dimmed slightly, confusion taking its place. She walked to the front door, opened it quietly. The house was silent except for voices coming from Daniel's home office, the converted guest room where he spent his nights and weekends working on projects that Vanessa would claim as her vision. Jasmine moved through the hallway, her footsteps soft on the hardwood floor. She was going to knock, going to interrupt whatever meeting this was and share her news. But something in Vanessa's tone made her pause just outside the cracked door. "Daniel, you're brilliant, but you're wasting your time at Morrison and Associates. Come work for me exclusively. I'll triple your salary, give you complete creative control. You'd be the lead architect on every one of my projects." Vanessa's voice was smooth, persuasive. "But you need to understand what I'm offering here. This isn't just about work." Jasmine's hand froze on the doorknob. Daniel's voice came next, tired and strained. "Vanessa, I can't just leave the firm, and I have responsibilities." "Your wife." Vanessa's tone turned sharp, like a knife sliding out of silk. "Let's be honest, Daniel, Jasmine is exhausting you. 3 jobs? That's not partnership, that's martyrdom. And it's embarrassing. A man of your talent should have a partner who elevates him, not one who drags him down into poverty." The lottery ticket in Jasmine's purse suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "My offer stands," Vanessa continued. $250,000 a year, equity in the company, your name on every building. But you need to be unencumbered, free to focus on work, free to travel, free to be the architect you were meant to be. I need someone who can be available, who doesn't have to rush home to a wife working night shifts. The silence that followed was excruciating. Jasmine's heart hammered in her chest, each beat painful. Then Daniel spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've thought about it. You're right. Jasmine deserves better than this life. Maybe we both do." The world stopped spinning. Jasmine stepped back from the door, her hand over her mouth to keep from making a sound. The ticket that had felt like salvation 30 seconds ago now felt like a cruel joke. She had won everything and lost everything in the same breath. She walked backward down the hallway, her vision blurring with tears. She didn't burst through the door. She didn't scream or confront them. She just left, climbing back into her car and driving with no destination in mind. The city passed by in a blur. Jasmine drove on autopilot, her mind replaying Daniel's words over and over. "Maybe we both do." What did that mean? Was he agreeing with Vanessa? Was he planning to leave her? After 12 years of marriage, after everything they'd been through together, was he really going to walk away now? She found herself at County General again, parking in the lot and walking through the familiar doors. The hospital was the one place that made sense to her, the one place where she knew her purpose. She walked through the halls, nodding at colleagues until she reached the nurses' station on the 4th floor. A young black nurse named Keisha was there, wiping tears from her eyes while another nurse patted her shoulder. Jasmine approached, her own pain momentarily forgotten. "What happened?" Keisha looked up, embarrassed. It's nothing, just a patient in 427. He refused to let me treat him. Said he wanted someone more qualified, someone with more experience. She laughed bitterly. I've been a nurse for 3 years, but he took one look at me and decided I wasn't good enough. The other nurse shook her head. He specifically asked for a white nurse, said it in front of everyone. Keisha handled it professionally, but I would have lost my temper. Jasmine felt something crack inside her chest. She'd experienced that look, that dismissal, 1,000 times. From Vanessa, from patients, from people who looked at her and saw only her skin color, her gender, her economic status, and decided that was all there was to know. She left the hospital and drove to the food bank where she volunteered twice a month. The director, Mr. Patterson, was outside with a small crowd of volunteers, and his face was grim. "We're closing," he announced. "The funding fell through. After 20 years serving this community, we're done. I'm sorry, everyone." Jasmine watched families who depended on this place start to cry. She watched volunteers who'd given years of their time look lost and helpless. She watched a community lifeline get cut, and nobody with power seemed to care. Her final stop was the cemetery she parked and walked to the grave of Daniel's mother, Grace. The headstone was simple but beautiful, designed by Daniel himself. Jasmine sat on the grass beside it, like she'd done 100 times before when the world got too heavy. "I don't know what to do," she whispered to the stone. "I have all this money, and I don't know if I even have a marriage anymore." She remembered Grace in the hospital during those final weeks, remembered Daniel sleeping in a chair beside her bed night after night, holding her hand, telling her about his latest designs, even though she could barely keep her eyes open. Daniel had been devoted to his mother, sacrificing sleep and work to be there for her. That was the man Jasmine had married, not someone who would abandon his wife because things got hard, unless the hardship had changed him, unless the weight had become too much. Jasmine sat there for a long time thinking. The sun moved across the sky. The ticket stayed in her purse, this secret that could change everything or nothing at all. Finally, she made a decision. Over the next week, Jasmine moved quietly and deliberately. She claimed her lottery winnings through a lawyer, setting up an anonymous LLC to protect her identity. She told no one, not Daniel, not her friends, not her co-workers. The money hit her account like a meteor, this impossible sum that didn't feel real. Then she started spending it. $5 million went to County General Hospital, funding for a new wing dedicated to community health services and establishing a scholarship program specifically for Black nursing students. The donation was anonymous, but the impact was immediate. Keisha would be one of the first scholarship recipients, though she didn't know it yet. $2 million went to the food bank, enough to keep it running for years and expand services to 3 more neighborhoods. $10 million went into a venture capital fund she created specifically to invest in minority-owned businesses, the kind of companies that traditional banks wouldn't touch. $3 million she kept for her family's immediate needs, paying off every debt they had, setting up accounts for the future, ensuring they'd never feel that crushing weight again. And $500,000 went to Morrison and Associates with a specific contract. She was hiring them to design a comprehensive community center in the neighborhood where she and Daniel had grown up. The project would take 2 years and require a full-time lead architect. She requested Daniel specifically. The remaining $1 million she invested carefully, setting up passive income streams and charitable foundations that would continue her work long after the initial money was spent. But she still didn't tell Daniel about the lottery. Instead, she did something else. She applied for a newly created position at County General, Director of Community Health Nursing, a role that came with the hospital's expansion. It was a real position, one that she was genuinely qualified for, and because she'd anonymously funded the wing, she had some influence over who got hired. She got the job, $150,000 a year, weekday hours, benefits, respect. Everything she'd worked for, finally within reach. When she told Daniel, she watched his face carefully, looking for disappointment, looking for resentment, looking for any sign that Vanessa's words had planted seeds of doubt. Instead, she saw pure joy. Daniel grabbed her and spun her around their tiny kitchen, laughing and crying at the same time. You did it! Oh my God, Jasmine, you did it! You deserve this so much. You deserve everything. He pulled back, holding her face in his hands. I'm so proud of you. You're the strongest, most incredible person I know. This is going to change everything for us. You're not upset? Jasmine asked quietly. That I'll be making more than you now? Daniel looked genuinely confused. Upset? Why would I be upset? Jasmine, you've been carrying us for years. You've sacrificed everything. This is your moment. I'm just grateful I get to be here to see it. Something in Jasmine's chest loosened slightly, but she had to know. What about Vanessa's offer? She asked. The one she came to talk to you about last Sunday? Daniel's expression darkened. How did you know about that? I came home early. I heard some of it. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I should have told you. Vanessa offered me a position working exclusively for her. A lot of money, a lot of freedom. But there were conditions. She wanted me available all the time, wanted me to prioritize her projects above everything else, above us. He looked at Jasmine directly. I told her no. But I heard you say that you deserved better than this life, Daniel finished. I meant you deserve better than us struggling, better than working 3 jobs, better than the stress and the debt. I didn't mean better than me. His voice cracked. I would never leave you, Jasmine. I'd rather struggle with you than succeed without you. You're my partner. You're my home. Jasmine felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I know what you thought, and I'm sorry I gave you any reason to doubt us. He pulled her close. I told Vanessa that same day that I wouldn't take her offer, that my marriage was worth more than any salary. She didn't take it well. As if summoned by the mention of her name, the doorbell rang. Daniel and Jasmine looked at each other, confused. It was 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Daniel opened the door to find Vanessa standing there, her expression cold and furious. You're making a mistake, she said without preamble, pushing past him into the house. I gave you the opportunity of a lifetime, Daniel, and you threw it away for... She stopped when she saw Jasmine, and her lip curled. For this. You need to leave, Daniel said firmly. Vanessa ignored him, her attention fixed on Jasmine. You know you're holding him back, don't you? He could be designing skyscrapers, creating monuments that last generations. Instead, he's stuck doing small-time projects because you can't pull your weight. You're dragging him down into your poverty mindset. Jasmine felt that familiar anger rise, the rage at being dismissed, at being treated like she was less than human, but this time it was mixed with something else, something like satisfaction. That's funny you should mention money, Vanessa, Jasmine said calmly. She walked to her purse and pulled out a folder she'd been keeping there all week, because I've been meaning to talk to you about that. She handed the folder to Vanessa, whose expression shifted from smug to confused to horrified as she read the documents inside. What you're looking at, Jasmine explained, are the articles of incorporation for Whitmore Development's biggest competitor. I bought the company 3 days ago. You'll be bidding against me for every major project in this city from now on. Vanessa's face went white. That's impossible. You're a nurse. I'm also the anonymous donor who just gave $10 million to County General Hospital and another $2 million to community programs across the city. And I'm the client who just hired Morrison and Associates for a $10 million community center project, with my husband as the lead architect. Jasmine smiled. Oh, and I won $50 million in the lottery. Did I forget to mention that? The silence in the room was deafening. Daniel stared at Jasmine like he'd never seen her before. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Here's the thing about poverty mindsets, Jasmine continued, her voice steady and strong. They're not about how much money you have. They're about how you treat people who have less than you. You looked at me and saw someone worthless because I worked 3 jobs. You tried to use money to control my husband, to break up my marriage. You thought wealth made you powerful. She stepped closer to Vanessa. But true power isn't about controlling people. It's about lifting them up. Now get out of my house." Vanessa left without another word, her heels clicking furiously against the sidewalk as she rushed to her car. Daniel turned to Jasmine slowly. "You won the lottery 10 days ago, and you didn't tell me." "I needed to know something first," Jasmine said softly. "I needed to know if you loved me when we had nothing, because money changes people, and I needed to know what we had was real." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Jasmine, we never had nothing. We always had each other." They held each other in their tiny kitchen, crying and laughing, and Jasmine realized that she'd been right to wait, because now she knew, beyond any doubt, what really mattered. The next morning, Jasmine's phone rang. It was the editor of Architectural Digest. "We heard about the community center project through our sources," the editor explained. "The design concepts that Morrison and Associates submitted are extraordinary. We'd like to feature the project, and specifically your husband's work, on our cover. Would that be possible?" Daniel's career exploded overnight. The magazine feature led to 5 more major contracts. Other developers, real developers who valued talent over exploitation, started calling. Within a month, Daniel had enough work to open his own firm. Within 3 months, he had a waiting list of clients, but the real changes were smaller, more personal. Jasmine started her new position at the hospital, creating programs that actually helped people. Daniel designed buildings that served communities rather than just making rich people richer. They paid off their debts and kept living in their same small house because it was home. The community center broke ground 6 months later. Jasmine and Daniel stood together at the ceremony, watching children play in the space that would soon become their haven. The building would have a library, a medical clinic, a job training center, spaces for art and music and hope. A reporter approached them, wanting to know the story behind the project. Jasmine looked at Daniel and he squeezed her hand. "Sometimes," Jasmine said carefully, "the world tries to tell you what you're worth, based on what you have or where you come from or what you look like. But real wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in how you treat people. It's in what you build that lasts. It's in who you lift up when you finally get the power to make a difference." The reporter scribbled notes, but Jasmine wasn't finished. "I spent years being underestimated, being dismissed, being treated like I was less than. And when I finally had the resources to change my life, I realized something important. The measure of a person isn't what they do when they have nothing. It's what they do when they have everything." 6 months after that, Jasmine stood in the completed community center, surrounded by neighbors and friends and strangers who had become family. Keisha was there, now in her 2nd year of nursing school thanks to the scholarship. Mr. Patterson was there, overseeing food bank operations in 3 neighborhoods. Families were there, children laughing and playing in spaces designed with love. Daniel found Jasmine in the crowd and pulled her aside. "Any regrets?" he asked. She thought about Vanessa, who'd lost 3 major contracts and was rumored to be selling her company. She thought about the lottery ticket, that $2 chance that had changed everything. She thought about the choices she'd made and the life they'd built. "Not a single one," she said. Because in the end, Jasmine had learned the most important lesson of all. True richness isn't what you have. It's who you lift up along the way. And love isn't proven in luxury. It's proven in loyalty, in struggle, in the quiet moments when you choose each other again and again, no matter what the world offers you to walk away. That was worth more than all the lottery jackpots in the world.